Welcome to Washingborough School in Lincolnshire. It is a values-based school and has been on the journey of becoming one for the last year, when its new head teacher, Jason O'Rourke, was appointed head teacher. Why do we have values-based schools? Why are they important? They are important because it's a philosophy of education. It's a way of looking at children's development so that they are taught holistically, inspiring both adults and children to work really hard and well at a values approach to education. What is a value? A value is a principle that guides behaviour, and people throughout the world feel that human beings really need to consider how they react to other people and how they live their lives. A values-based school enables children to think about these universal positive human values, such as respect, tolerance, peace, care. And these values you will see today being taught and being learned about and being experienced by the children. The children, in their lessons, learn about the values. These lessons are not always just about the values. It may be a mathematics lesson or it may be a geography lesson, but the values are drawn out during the lessons. The benefits are that children develop a secure sense of self. They become more empowered to take responsibility for their learning. Research has shown that children develop academic diligence when being involved in a values-based school. Relational trust is also something that's really important to develop. And industry wants children who are able to be articulate and able to talk freely and well. A values-based school does this. Another important ingredient which you will see today is silence, quietness, silent sitting and reflection. I believe that schools in the 21st century need to develop the quality of reflection so that children can really deeply understand their work and their lives. I hope you will enjoy this visit to Washingborough School. It is a school on a journey. It's not at the end of the journey. It's a typical school that you would see in any part of the United Kingdom. And I hope it will inspire you to want to develop values education.
Love.
Love. Why do you like love?
Because I like loving for people and looking after them.
I kind of like thoughtfulness because it was when we was doing about the poppies and stuff like that. Because we think about somebody else, it's more than just thinking about yourself.
I quite like peace because, you know, if you're peaceful then the world seems a lot more still and calm, and I like relaxing and stuff.
It can make our school a little bit better. First, when I started learning about values, I had no idea what any of the values would mean, but now I've gone over loads of values, so now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my work more quality and respect more about people.
Everyone's just a lot more calm, and school, it's not like, there's not a lot of arguing, it's kind of just go with the flow.
We encourage reflection in the classes throughout the school. After playtimes, for example, we play just a minute, and this is a really good way to get the children to calm down, where a person actually talks them through a relaxation technique, and there's some very soothing music played in the background. And I find that the children come in, we settle down, listen to just a minute, and then they're actually ready to work. They're relaxed, they've cleared their mind from playtime and any issues that have cropped up there, and they're ready to go.
Well, we have certain assemblies that teach us values. Every Monday we have an assembly on like the value that we're concentrating on, which teaches us a lot every week.
What value were we really concentrating on? It was on caring, well done. And it's looking at, we looked at what caring meant. It meant caring for ourselves and looking after ourselves. It also meant caring for our friends and for our family, making sure that they're looked after and we're part of that. But we also talked about caring for our environment. All the children have done some really great work with raising money to help the birds and help and care for our wildlife and care for our gardens. And Mr. Beaumont said, well, I can help a little bit here as well.
That we talk about them in assembly, and in my class we do it in circle time as well. We've got like a little puppet, and whoever's got the puppet can speak about our value.
I think we have to empower the children. We have to lift their self-esteem, and by putting these values into their life, we start to let them solve their own problems and to share the values with other people. I've been talking to people within the school today, and mums have been saying how their children come home and speak to them about patience and, are you being tolerant, Mum? And I think that is fantastic. And I just wonder whether you asked a child of the same age a question like that from a school that didn't have these values, whether they'd actually understand that word. And I don't think they would.
Explore the different values through drama. It's a really good vehicle to get children to empathise with different characters. So I use techniques such as hot seating and freeze frames, etc., to really bring the values to life for those children.
I'd advise another school to focus on making the values really explicit, using the language every day, incorporating it into all areas of the curriculum, not just when you are teaching values, so using it all the time.
And like with displays, we've actually done it so that the photos of, say, love is of the children in the school, in the classroom, and so that, you know, they have ownership of that value.
And in assemblies too, at the beginning of every 3 weeks when we're starting a new value, it really highlights the value for the whole school together, and then teachers will go off and develop lessons based on that value in their own classrooms.
In my child's class, the teacher is reinforcing the value word each week by doing circle time, which is fantastic because it's getting the children to understand what the word means and, you know, to follow it through, and it puts them in a situation, say if they're doing being patient one week, they have to then be in a situation where they've been patient, so it's getting, especially a young child, getting them to understand the word and knowing what, which is really good.
We do, in circle time, we usually talk about values as well, because let's say, because this week we did a project on caring, and we met up every single circle time and we had to talk about what we were going to do.
I think my son has a good understanding of the values he's doing. He talks openly of the current value, but also an understanding that it's not just the current value that they should be focusing on. They should be focusing on the whole value system. He's particularly interested in the glass beads in the jar, and he's always very disappointed when one shows less than the other. But no, I think he has a very clear understanding of what is being taught. It seems to be a very holistic way that the school handle it, not just through direct teaching, but the way the teachers demonstrate the values, and the children are encouraged to.
We do it through drama, like we like today we done like a little book, and we like done freeze frames for a book to do with caring.
And we do quality work, so we have to do quality, not quantity. That's what we say in our classroom.
And like Connor said, we kind of have a book sort of as an example, and then we like empathise.
I think values education has had a profound effect on the children in my class because of the values that we're studying. They're calm, they're relaxed, they enjoy working together, they work cooperatively when we're solving problems. For example, today when we were looking at caring, we actually did some role play, and they had to empathise with someone who was feeling lonely, and they actually set up a little scene where 3 of them would be stood to one side looking really happy and enjoying their playtime, and the child who was left by themselves was actually stood with a really lonely, sad face, and they had to relate to that. When we did the discussion afterwards, they had to think, how would that child feel? How could we ensure that that child didn't feel like that?
We're a lot more caring and we're showing the values a bit more.
The changes have been a lot more purposeful ethos to the school. The children are a lot more calmer. There's a lot more direction to their own personal values. You see the children actually using the words and bringing in things from home. This is a wonderful thing, that they bring in things from home to show how they are using the values at home. A lot of input from parents about how it's making a positive contribution to their family life. And teachers are finding their workload is decreasing. They are not spending a lot of time with behaviour management. They're spending their time with quality first teaching and quality first learning, because the children are looking at their own behaviour and modelling their own behaviour to improve their own learning.
The differences I've seen as I've come into the school is that I'm beginning to see that children learn what they live. And in living these values Monday to Friday, you can just see these children developing in their self-confidence, their respect for one another and the whole community.
Since the introduction of values education, I think I've noticed the children coming to the office a lot more. The children perhaps more confident and able to ask questions and happy to come with any problems and seek advice or information, perhaps more freely than they used to do. And certainly a greater degree of confidence and understanding of how others might feel or might respond. And there's a lot of please and thank you comes into it anyway, which is good. So no, I think things have changed.
Well, the difference I've noticed is that I've got 4 children ranging from the age of 12 to 6. They seem to be really content with school and really happy to come. And yeah, I can speak to them about things, or about being patient and, you know, loving or fun, and they seem a lot happier.
Values education will change the academic performance of children in that they learn from a young age, particularly from our school, where they're learning it from primary school till they leave to go into secondary school. They will learn how to behave well in class. That will affect the way that they absorb the information they're getting, and that can only lead them into good stead for secondary school education and further education.
It's in me, I've become a better person, I've become a more thoughtful person.
Values education is really contributing to the raising of academic standards here. We've seen a marked increase in academic achievement, and I can put that down to values education. It's the children knowing why they are learning, understanding their own contribution to their own learning, looking at the way that they enact with other children, looking at their relationships that they have with their teachers, with their peers, and that is bringing on a lot of fantastic work, quality work that's coming out of our school.
The schools introduce a very nurturing environment. The values are talked of more openly by the children, and they seem to have a great understanding of the actual values, and they're quite difficult language for young children to use.
I think it's perhaps made my job more interesting in some ways. Certainly with as far as the children go, they're much happier to come along and talk, as I've said, and that does make a difference, and the interaction with the children, and perhaps just the general atmosphere in the school, which is lovely. Everybody's very accommodating and very helpful anyway.
Values education has had a big impact on me as a head teacher and as a school leader. It's made me reflect a lot more on the decisions that I make, the strategic direction that has gone with the school, and has brought this school really, really close together. The relationships that we have in this school are really, really powerful. They're very strong relationships, and that has benefited all. It's benefited the children, it's benefited the parents, it's benefited visitors that arrive to this school, that you can feel a very positive ethos within Washingborough Primary School.
The one thing I think I've learnt from the values more than anything else is the fact that it's so important to empathise with people, and that to me is what the values are all about, is about empathy. And if you've got those values yourself, you're going to empathise with whoever comes to that hatch, whoever comes to the office, and you're going to be able to respond to them and help them.
I believe the children's work has improved. They're using the language of values to assess their own work. So they're saying, I've produced a quality piece of work, and they're showing respect for each other, which is another value. And it's just coming through in all areas of the curriculum.
Values education is important for the 21st century because it's looking at the whole child. I think the initiatives that have come out in recent years have looked at raising academic achievement, and we've lost the input of actually looking at what a child's values and their values base is. And research has shown that if we get that right, if we look at the values of a child, then their academic achievement raises as well. They know why they are learning, they see the importance of learning, and they have the skills and the attributes through their values learning.
I think it kind of teaches us how to act and how we should behave at school.
Yeah,
or anywhere.
It's teaching us a lot of things that we used to not know, so it's changed our behaviour a lot.
As a governor of this school, we've decided to adopt the values programme because we really believe that every child is important. And the way we live today is so different now. Values seem to have been dropped out of communities over the years, and by introducing them back into the school, we hope that the children from here will make a big difference in the communities they go to live in as they get older. From where I sit as an early years practitioner, I just absolutely love the thought of the value system, and I feel it dovetails really well with my own practice anyway, and we're really looking forward to sharing and embracing the system with the school. To me, you know, it was something that we as teachers, teaching assistants in this school had previously, but it wasn't until it became a value school that you all realised that you all had the same goal, you all had the same values, and you know, it made it more united, you know, for the children to know, to understand and to actually work with.
And we're more thoughtful about each people and each other.
And we're doing like more environmental work like outside of school as well as inside. I think it just changes our behaviour at home as well because of how we are at school. I think we take it home as well. They're very pleased and asking me about how we do the values and how a good way to show them is.
I support the school in adopting values education because I think it's a fundamental part of society. It's something as a family we believe in strongly, and it's nice to think that the school are embracing that and taking it on board, encouraging our development of our children, but also I'm hoping that it'll have a knock-on effect with other children as well.
Values education spreads very quickly. When you talk to people about it, they see that it is the right thing to do. It's mentioned in the churches. It's mentioned in and being brought on board by the local Cub Scout group. It's been brought over in other community groups within our own community. The Children's Centre that we've just had built, when they visited the school and saw our displays and talked to me about values education, they're now introducing it to them. So we're getting families talking about it and wanting to know more about what values education means and how they can contribute to it. The challenge is, I think, fundamentally modelling it for everybody. That involves a really clear introduction about what values education means and how it can be supported in everything that you do. It's looking at the planning elements of how you're going to introduce the certain values that you have in your academic year.
Because they respect us, like, even if we accidentally say something wrong, they still respect us by saying, that's quite a good idea, actually.
They've changed in the way they think about us, in the way they sort of act around us, so they're much more thoughtful and they think a lot about us. When we've done something wrong, they don't shout at us a lot. They're firm, but they're fair.
As a family, we try to be patient with our children, show tolerance, and periodically, as parents, we always get to that slightly gritted teeth situation. And my son's pretty good at turning around and saying, "Mummy, are you showing patience at the moment?" And through my gritted teeth, I always say, "Oh, yes."
And if, say, something has been done wrong, the teachers would remind us about the values and how we should act. And
I think we see ourselves as models for values in our school, because if we're showing a caring attitude, then children are going to respond and show that caring attitude towards others.
I do use the values myself, yeah, because it helps me, remain focused. And if ever I get stressed out, I always take a minute, which are also teaching in the schools, and think about a positive word, a value, and yeah, it's really good. Yes.
I would recommend other schools to adopt this values education. The children seem to get on so much better. They're learning to care for one another. And I just get quite excited in thinking that if more children learned these values, the difference that would make in society would just be wonderful.
Do as much as you can to try to approach a goal. So try to get a goal of everything. Set yourself a little challenge and see if you can accomplish it.
I would recommend that other schools embrace the values system. I think is possibly the way, because I don't think it's just something they can do at grass level. It's got to be taken into the ethos of the school and demonstrated by every member of staff, teaching, non-teaching, support staff, lunchtime supervisors and so on, to allow the children to take it on board fully, because we have to model. As adults, we have to model these values to our children.
All schools should learn about values, because they can improve their work and be more respectful and thoughtful with other people.
I think the values are perhaps what's ongoing in society. It's to do with parenting, how we parent our children, how we encourage them, how we nurture them. I think without these values, society will ultimately break down. So for society to continue and for extended families to continue, we need these values put into our children.
Just have a go at it, because actually it's really fun to learn about them, so don't put your mind down to it and maybe have a go.
Yeah, it's good to try and see what it's like.
I think other schools would really benefit from following a value-based curriculum, because it encourages the children to be reflective, it encourages them to empathise with people, it encourages them to really have a go at dealing with everyday issues through the values, and it really is the important things in life that underpin the whole education that we cover in school.
I think it has had a big effect on the school.
There's a lot that you actually don't know that actually comes out of values. So values are helping us a lot with our schoolwork, so don't turn your mind down to it, as I said.
When you look at what education is about, as a school leaders, what our core purpose is, values education fulfills all of that. If you ask yourself, and I ask parents this, what would you like your child to be by the time they finish their schooling at Washingborough Primary School? The same answers come out to every parent. It comes out as a parent myself. You want your children to be happy. You want them to be responsible. You want them to know about respect. You want them to know about truth and honesty and to be caring. If we explicitly share that with children and then know the power of those words and the actions that they can take to share that, then that does have a massive effect on a child's life.
I think that needs to be a joint ownership. I think the head has a big part to play in that. And I also think a teacher, it's a good idea to have a teacher as a leader of the values, simply to check that everyone understands what needs to happen and what's going on, and to give advice if people aren't quite sure what to do, to point out resources, and to be available for people just to talk through ideas if they're really stuck for things to do.
It was very important to share that vision, one with the governors, which we did at a very early stage. My initial work with teachers on the first day that I was here was looking at the philosophy of values, talking about how we can implement that, how we as teachers and adults in this school were the role models. I then talked to the children about it the following day and talked about the work that we will be doing in the future. A couple of weeks later we had a parents' meeting, and I went through it with the parents as well and told them about the philosophy of values and how that can make a real difference to their own children's lives and to them as families as well. You really do have to get everybody on board, and this is all stakeholders within your school. This is the children, it's the staff, it's the governors, it's the community, and that communication with these key stakeholders is really paramount to it being successful within a school, and you need to give that real time.
I've had a fantastic visit to Washingborough School, and I hope that you feel inspired to work with values education in your school or setting. If we can do anything to support you as you develop values education, then please do not hesitate to contact us. Best of luck.